thanks, Peter. We will start. What I'll do is I will unmute. Where are we? I'll unmute John and Nick and Rowland, and I will share the screen as well. So bear with me for 1 second. So we always love this, don't we? Right, first off, can everybody see? Yeah, right. Can everybody see that screen?
Yeah.
Okay, right, John.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for attending this evening. I understand that you've got lots of other things to do, like going to the pub, going to the theatre, going to restaurants. Hopefully we will be able to do some of those things soon. But there's no way of putting it other than that this last year has been a year of survival. If you move to the next slide, please, Chris. The grim facts are very, very disheartening, but I put them up front there just to give you an idea of what it is that we've had to face over this last 12 months. As you know, slightly before the start of the 12 months of COVID, the RFU cut our funding from 670 to 150,000. And that was the same for every club in the championship, so it affects us all equally. However, Cov, having developed the biggest attendances, the biggest hospitality offerings, has had the most to lose in terms of turnover. And we've lost around about 2 million quid over the whole season as a result of closed doors and no games, and not selling beer and crisps and other things. It also means that the site development plans, which I announced to you last year, of a health and fitness centre, they've been stopped. And as a consequence, as a further income of around about £1 million in terms of site premium and ground rent that we've lost, that we expected to have this year. Behind that, we have business interruption insurance, and the very high-minded moral people who run these insurance companies are still declining to pay out under that policy, despite the fact that we paid our premium on time. We're still fighting that, and we're certainly not giving up. Now, we, as you know, have been operating under a 3-year strategy, and we were in the final year of that strategy. And Rowland had taken the playing squad to where we wanted it to be. We had Nick developing the commercial side of the business, and with our community work growing under the auspices of the foundation and Hal Spark and the other guys, we were getting where we were on that. And this thing has just wrecked it completely at the 11th, 12th hour. So our strategy is in complete tatters, and we've had to rethink. We have had no assistance from the RFU, nor did we expect them any. We see the government giving them 135 million quid, and of that they give 59 million to the Premiership. No doubt some of you will have seen my rant in the Guardian yesterday. If not, have a read of it, and you'll see why I'm no longer on Bill Sweeney's Christmas card list. And the way we approached this at Cov was to say, look, let's face it, guys, we've got to be on our own here. We've got to deal with this ourselves. We've got to stand up and make the best of it, because we can't rely upon anybody else coming in to bail us out. There's going to be no riders of Rohan arriving at dawn on the 3rd day, so to speak. So next slide, please. So I put together a strategy which is in 3 parts, and discussed it with my colleagues, and we adopted, and with the board, and we adopted this strategy just about a year ago. And the 3 parts of the strategy are pretty self-evident: survival, revival, and sustainable excellence. And we've sort of injected that into the middle of our longer term strategy. So this is an interregnum, this is an interruption of that longer term strategy. And next slide is survival. And we simply, with those grim facts that I illustrated a minute ago, we have had to cut costs in all departments. We've cut costs in the commercial departments, in the rugby departments, not only on the playing field, but also in the support staff. But we have made efforts to preserve the core staff. Rowland will tell you more about that in a minute. We've had to halt any capital expenditure. We did have plans for a cowshed, and we've had to stop that and reserve whatever capital we have for the simple process of survival. Meanwhile, we've taken advantage of everything we can, government assistance, and also we applied for assistance under the Sports Winter Survival Package from the government. I unfortunately cannot tell you the details of what we've received because I'm sworn to secrecy about that. I can tell you we have received something. It's not everything we asked for, and there was no element of grant. Unfortunately, it's all a loan, but the terms of the loan are pretty good. In fact, they're excellent, and as such, I'm not going to challenge the company in terms of repayment over the next couple of decades. Part of the requirement for them giving us any money at all was that I had to put in yet another 6-figure sum, which I have done on the back of already having put in 6-figure sums this year to keep the club afloat. And I will do that as much as I can, but the point being is that my ability to do so is finite. You know, having paid for the pitch, having bought the land, lease and everything, and funded our development, and funds are running low. So it does mean that we're going to have to keep on pressing hard on controlling costs and finding income and assistance from whatever sources we can. But above all, what we've tried to do is to keep everybody safe, everybody fit, and all ready to go as we reach the next stage, which is revival. Good. And we know this season's a mess. It's a very late start. It's a truncated season. We know that there's only 11 clubs taking part. One club could not afford to take part this year behind closed doors. And there's no home and away fixtures. It's just one of 10 games. And it's a pretty meaningless league system season, other than for those clubs who are aspiring to promotion. And one assumes those are Saracens and Ealing, the amount of money they're throwing at it. But we do know there's no relegation this year. So in a way, we can say that 21-22 is pretty much a training run for next 2021 is pretty much a training run for next year, and we can treat it as an extended pre-season training session. Currently playing behind closed doors with TV streaming going on. The results from the TV streaming have been extremely disappointing. Only 300, 400, 500 people signing up to watch the games, which is a shame because the good rugby has been played. And of course, the income does come to the clubs. It does not go to the RFU, even though the RFU arranged it and they've not done it particularly well. The money does come to the clubs. So I would encourage you to sign up if you possibly can. Hopefully, by the time the 22nd of May comes round, we will be able to open the gates to Butts Park Arena. And that is a significant day because that is the day we host Saracens here at home. And I would very much like to have a very big crowd here to enjoy that event. We're hoping to arrange additional summer events, both on the rugby front and also in conjunction with our collaborators at the City of Culture. And plans are being made to do some outside events at Butts Park Arena to celebrate the City of Culture. Other things have been cancelled. I saw one of the questions, I think, from you, Cliff Bennett, was what about Ladies International as well? We were scheduled to have England versus Spain Women's International, and that was cancelled. And we are looking at other events, and hopefully we will get something going in the summer where we can all sit outside in the sunshine and enjoy it. In the meantime, we've not sat quietly. We've been redefining our site development plans, given that the Health and Leisure Centre has been stopped. And we'll tell you more about that in a minute. And then on top of that, we've been working hard. Well, the supporters group have been working very hard. Quent Mellish and also Andrew Carpenter from our board have been working on putting together a share scheme whereby hopefully supporters will be able to own part of the club and not just give us contributions, for which we're always grateful. But in this way, you'll actually have share ownership in the club. And then stage 3, which is sustainable excellence. We don't quite know what the championship is going to look like next season. We do know it will be 11 clubs because one is going up, none are coming down, and none are coming up. So there will be 11 clubs again. It'll be lopsided and less than perfect. But we have to think about what it is we're going to see after that. What sort of championship are we going to see? And as you know, there's been lots of talk about a moratorium on relegation for a number of years. So we're going to have to try and anticipate what's going on. There is a working group looking at what the championship will be in the future. But we have to cut our cloth to deal with that. Nick, maybe you'd like to step in and say a few words about what you know, having had a meeting with Mr. Sweeney last week.
Yeah, John, hello, good evening, everybody. I'm a bit here. I don't have any faith in the RFU, nor do I think they really care about what we look like. But I don't want to speculate what their agenda is because they don't tell anybody. Pretty sure they've got one and hopefully they've got a plan. But we are on our own, and we've sort of derived that from being the outliers from December 19 all the way through to the current day, where we got off our backside, to want a better words, and wrote a blueprint. Heavily involved in working with Edward on the tech proposal, which we felt is the way forward. And ironically, it is, it is being revived as we speak because it's sort of come back into flavour. But we're working hard, as a working group to make a difference. But we want to make this league something everybody's proud of, and it's about its heritage, its tradition, and its links with the community. And that's the point where we're at now. So I've been in a meeting with Ed today, and we're writing an investment perspective for people to draw money into it, because we need to fund it. We can't rely on the RFU. Effectively they give us £80,000 the RFU at the moment, and PRL give us £60,000. Well, it costs us more to meet the minimum standards. So that's exactly what we're up against. We're quite excited what that can look like, because it'll keep clubs like Coventry as those professional, community-centric, epicenters in our area, and that's what we want to be, where we're servicing the grassroots all the way through to the elite game, bringing homegrown talent through. I'm sure Rowland will touch on that in his chat later on, but we believe this is a really marketable piece and should be very easily the best tier 2 competition in the world. But we've now got like-minded people working with us on that, and I don't put the RFU in that category, unfortunately. So we'll continue to strive to work hard on that and keep everybody updated as and when we've got something to say. But we're working towards tight deadlines, and it's the summer at the moment to hit some significant.
So we're optimistic. We know that the powers that be are trying to, well, at least not trying to assist us. So again, we're taking matters into our own hands and dealing with that. We have to have this in place as we do the site development plans in order to produce the non-rugby income for the reasons I've explained earlier. And our intention is that instead of being self-financing this year, which was the last part of our three-year strategic plan, we're now pushing that back into next year. So moving on to the next slide, what I'd like to do is to hand over to Rowland, who will develop the theme of the three-part phase strategy. Over to you, Ro.
Next slide, please, Chris. Okay, guys, look, good evening. My aim with this was really to translate what John's just said and put that into sort of rugby perspective and what that looks like for the rugby department and how it's been. And I've got a couple of slides just take you through to sort of show you the challenges that we've had, how we've sort of picked up the pieces and put things back together a little bit so we're ready to go. So Chris, if you can go on to the next one for me. I wanted to sort of just highlight to you all kind of what the period from April this time last year through to when the season started sort of meant for us on the rugby pitch. You know, I've kind of split it up into three areas, as you can see on the screen. And first and foremost, you know, we had a squad of 38, 39 senior players and about 16 or 17 development players that over the space of about 3 or 4 weeks turned into about 20 players. And we had to sort of pick that up and put it back together. And that was a hard process because, as John said, we were at the end of that 3-year plan. You know, we were just about ready to go. This season for us should have been about improving on that 4th place, trying to put some pressure on Ealing, become the challengers to the league and really step up. And what it meant was we were dismantling the squad overnight with the circumstances we faced. So what that meant for the boys that we had left was uncertainty. And the why that's difficult is, to be blunt with you all, my job really is to try and create a stress-free environment for the players so they've got as much as they have on the plate so that when they arrive to work, they can work hard. The challenges and the sort of issues they face on the rugby pitch are that alone. And we give them focus, we give them structure, we give them direction, we give them a purpose because they've got a game to focus on or a season to focus on or their individual targets. But all of that went out the window and these boys were stuck at home, a lot of them on their own, without gym equipment, without access anywhere. And suddenly no one was telling them where they needed to be at 7 o'clock in the morning or what move they needed to work with or what team they had selected for. So initially it was about engagement, it was about support. And probably the biggest lesson for me is I had a big sort of comeuppance really around effective communication in that period, because it was so hard to know what to tell the boys, what not to tell the boys, how to keep them on track with what was going on. How, you know, we've got some in the squad that like to panic, that like to worry, and it's actually keeping them calm. We've got some guys that wanted to wrap themselves up at home and not be engaging. So it's trying to keep everyone on track. What we did was we put them through a series of team challenges. We had weekly team calls. We had almost daily one-to-ones, and it was hard. It was mainly hard because we had nowhere, as we all did, nowhere to really aim for. Luckily, we got through sort of October, December time, and we made the decision as the club to be able to bring the boys back into training and start preparing for what we thought was a season in October, then November, then December, and there's a lot of false dawns, but at least we had them at the club, and we had them there, we were training, and that turned to giving them the structure that they needed, and then it became a case of just sort of motivating them and keep evolving with all the procedures and the testing and the not testing and all the different COVID sort of issues we had to deal with and balance with. And to be honest, for a long time, it felt like we were doing anything but rugby. And then finally, we got round to January and we had a bit of an inkling that the season was starting in March. So we were able to get cracking. What that really meant was we could put a squad together or start to put a squad together that could compete or hopefully compete in these 10-game period. And as John says, prepare ourselves for that next stage and for that next season. So Chris, if you can take us on. There we go. So I've split this revival stage into three parts, and this is the most important bit for me really. That start with was retention. John alluded to, we kept the core squad on board, we kept the core staff on board, and that gave us stability and a nucleus to sort of build around. Allowed us to grow back. You know, Nick touched on homegrown players earlier on, and so we immediately promoted 10 players from our academy process, all boys that have been through our under-18s that has only started a couple of years ago, which has to some extent saved where we are in terms of a squad. Lots of young 18, 19-year-old players that came through, and we had to accelerate their development pretty quickly and put them into that senior setup and get them training. You know, we've already seen Tom Ball, you've seen Louis James, there's seen a number of others that are going to come through that we're really excited about. But normally, those players probably would have been off National League Rugby for a year and sort of cutting their teeth there, but we had to chuck them in at the deep end. We then added to that with because of the fact we lost 17, 18 senior players, we brought those academy boys up. So we still had a gap of 6 or 7 players. And with finance being as tight as it was, we made the move to look at dual registration. And my tactic, having seen Bedford jump into bed with Northampton and the risks that has for depending completely on one club, we decided that we would sort of make friends with everybody really and sort of grow our relationships with as many different clubs. At the moment, we've got players across from 5 or 6 different clubs, which allows us to grow those relationships, understand where those players are at, and really complement our squad with the young players and the boys we've kept on board. With those and we've got a couple more to announce tomorrow because unfortunately we picked up some more injuries, which means we've had to bring in a couple more in. But we're now younger, we're keener. Despite my lack of hair at the moment for the last year, we're younger, we're hungrier, we're ready to go. And that average age of that squad's come down from sort of high 20s down to 22, 23. And people like Luke Janot, Toby Trinder, Tom Emery when he comes back from the Sevens, Nick Dolly before he jumped ship to Tigers. We've got a core group that we're building around that will set us up for the future. Now, that then means recruitment has to change. We made the big step to really build on what we did. So we changed our profiling. And what that really means is for us, reducing that age, adding in a second tier into our high performance program really. And that's by adding that educational program. So we've added in partnerships with Malton College that will underpin everything we do now moving forward. And there's a club across the board, I know Nick will touch on later on, but from the community through to the academy through to the seniors, we want to make this the flagship model of what we're doing. And that means that our profile of recruitment will change. We'll look to focus on those 16 to 23-year-old players that have got a clear development journey, someone that's really going to come to us. And they may move on quicker than the club does, but if not, they're embedded in what we're doing, they're buying into our process, and they're driving the club forward. And that's kind of where we've got to at the moment. Now, the Malton College programme has got a few more things to launch, but we are in a position where we'll have under 18s with Malton College through their BTEC programme. We'll have an under 19 programme that will be based on site for 25 young players, under 19 players that can train full time with us. And then we'll have the under 23 programme that will be launching that we made an announcement at the last couple of days that allows us to work with Malton with their degree programmes. So it means now that we can, as we move forward, we are in a position where we can deliver the most comprehensive programme. So Chris, if you can take me on to the next slide. So this is the last bit for me for the time being, that the simple aim for us is as we move to that sustained excellence programme, as we move forward and eventually get through survival and move through that revival stage I looked at, we want to offer the most comprehensive playing and education and personal development programme in UK rugby. And the reason why we're able to do that is because the beauty of where the championship's at, we can grow our own development academy, we can grow our own community programme, we can pull this together with an education programme and deliver almost a one-stop shop for a young player coming through. And if that means they move on to Premiership Rugby or to levels above, then brilliant. It'll be a product of where we're at, because we want to become one of the biggest talent development centres in the country. And that's what I think we're set up to do. Still professional rugby, but it's underpinned now with everything around developing players and staff across the club. So a person can come through the community programmes and come in at 16 and can develop on and off the pitch with us. And that allows us really to start developing a senior squad over the next couple of years for us to be able to compete right at the top end of the championship by the time the club hits its 150-year anniversary. You know, so that's it from me. I've got another slide I think in a minute, but I'm happy to take some questions at the end as well.
Thank you, Rowland. Of course, what you did mean was to win the championship in our 150th anniversary year.
Absolutely.
Thanks, but we'll move on because we are more than rugby. And I just wanted to give you a couple of minutes on Butts Park Arena and the development, which has taken quite a new turn after we were so set upon the health and fitness centre. We've now moved on quite a stage, and so to tell you more about that, the next slide. The health and fitness centre plans were halted, and they were halted by a combination of COVID, which obviously caused the developer to pause, because all his other health and fitness centres were closed and he's got no income coming in, but also because the city council had big doubts about it, given they'd spent a fortune on the wave, and the wave was turning into a bit of a white elephant, and they didn't want further competition. So it was suggested to us in a pretty helpful manner how we should rethink our aspirations. So we redesigned the whole thing based upon what is our business strategy, and given our business strategy, how do we plan that, and then how do we turn that into a development strategy? We have appointed project managers, we have appointed a developer, and we have submitted a pre-planning application, which runs to 69 pages. It's a very significant document, and planning meetings are taking place with the city council. In the meantime, we've been having a very helpful dialogue with the politicians in the city council. These are the people who determine the policy and then instruct the workers, the doers, for example, in the planning department, to get things done. And the way we're turning is shown on the next slide. I know it's only a CGI, but nevertheless. So this is taken from across the road from the Butts. And on the left-hand side, you will see what is a tentative hotel complex developed on the car park, or part of the car park at the front of our site. And discussions are taking place with a hotel operator, a very well-known hotel operator as we speak. On the left-hand side would be residential accommodation, which would run along the park side of our stadium. This fits very well with the council's plans for the regeneration of Spon End. There are significant plans afoot for the regeneration of the whole of Spon End, starting with a new highway coming in, and then also it leads into what they call City Centre South and South Earls redevelopment plans. This fits them very good, and therefore they're pretty supportive of us. Underneath the hotel there on the first floor, the ground floor, there would be cafe, dining, high-tech hub, and hopefully a club shop. So we would have a front piece on that area. And I don't know whether many of you know this, but the old Sovereign Road, which runs alongside the park, between the park and our fence, that is actually a national cycle path. And given that there are ambitions for the city council to have a bike hire scheme, it's possible that we could be a hub for that. And this would be phase one of the development, which would kickstart the development, and then that would lead into phase two, which is more to do with us being a centre of sporting excellence, centre of education as well. But you've got to start somewhere, and you've got to start with the piece that brings the money in. We can then develop the rest. So moving on. Again, artist impression. This is taken from the main stand. And on the right-hand side there, you'll see a 4-story hotel. And on the first floor of that, all that glassy area, that would be a new hospitality and viewing suite, which would be open on match days, and also other occasions for people to come and dine and have drinks and watch the game. Below it, there would be a spectator area. It's not shown on this particular CGI. But also then on the far side of the ground, inclusive in the residential development, which would run to 6 stories, is the cow shed. And this would be terraced standing, including bars, restaurants, and toilet facilities, and so on. So all of that would enhance our whole family-friendly atmosphere. And we have to think ahead and think about, well, how is this COVID going to last? You know, what difference is it going to make to what we've been used to? So we're planning for that. And what I particularly like about it, and the players would like it as well, that with these walls around the ground, it would create proper fortress Coventry, where you guys who make all the cov noise would resonate off the walls and frighten the pants off the position. So I think that's really good. Moving on then, please, Chris. So the community work continues to be a central pillar of our overarching strategy. Remember, those three pillars are being financially sustainable, playing rugby at the very top end of the championship and perhaps moving up or being ready to move up, and then to have this being a force for good in the community or community work. And I will say to you that latter part, this community work, is important to the City Council in assisting us in developing our site. They want to see us continuing with our community work. They appreciate very much what we've done in the past, and they want to see us continue that. So it's really linked in with them granting us all the necessary approvals to move forward to develop the site. So the next slide I'll ask Rowland to address, because it just reinforces what he's already been talking about. And then I'd like Nick to address the next 2 or 3 slides.
Yeah, thanks, John. So this really is about how we're continuing to link the great work that Hal and Rich and Matt and everyone's doing within the community department through to the academy and into the first team. And you know, we've got, as I said earlier on, the under 18s academy that's going to be developed now with the work with Moulton. That will then bridge through to the under 23s. But the work that the guys are doing before that to prepare, not just from a community point of view, but also for that next generation of elite players is fantastic. And that we've got an education program for the coaches. And as you work through these things, I suppose really what we're trying to do is fill the gap that there is locally and take some responsibility locally for what the RFU have left and what the lack of provision that they do have. Now, for us as a group, working as a whole club, it's really important to us to take that responsibility on board. And with the various you've seen this week at the club, with the various camps and masterclasses that we can do, guys going out into the community and coaching within clubs and schools, and this is massive for us as we almost throw the net, from my point of view, from a rugby point of view, to throw the net for these elite players, but also mainly to engage people into the game, and that's the most important part. There's a couple of new programs on the horizon that, you know, we want to commit and engage into women's rugby, and we want to work through with the under 16s and really bridge the gap even more, so that we're throwing guys into that under 18s and we're building that pathway all the way through, and that's really important for us as we get going. Chris?
Okay.
Yeah, Nick, please.
Yeah. No, I mean, just to reaffirm what Rowland just said, it's key that everything is joined up at the club, and one of our major objectives of the site is to become this centre for elite sport, health and wellbeing and education, and become this destination venue in the city centre. You know, we've got some pretty clear direction in our excellent dialogue with the City Council around how they want to assist us and join us on this journey. But by going into the community, you know, we're doing it because we want to, not because we have to. That happens in the Premiership clubs. We feel it's so important and making a difference to that social fabric, you know, dealing with health inequality, social values, improving people's lifetimes, and removing all those barriers to participation, financial access, you know, elitism. So you know, as you've all seen and it's been well documented, our site is truly a multi-sport venue, a multi-event venue. We have potential concerts in the summer for the City of Culture, really exciting. Still at negotiation stages, may I add, so I can't digress, you know, too much information there. But we've already seen men's football, women's football, you know, and luckily, you know, not luckily, but fair play to Coventry United ladies, they kept their status this weekend. Now they want to become more involved with their new ownership with the club and more integrated. And that just shows how the relationships have developed over the last years. Bears are back playing here in the summer when their league finally kicks off. So we're looking to expand those. We've got the university playing here. We've got American football. We've got Gaelic football. We'll reinvent all those things. The kids' camps have been an unbelievable success, and the benefits of the mental well-being aspect for our youngsters in this city. You know, youth sport is important to us, as Rowland's alluded to. You know, giving them the opportunity to get out and exercise, and that extends to our free space for schools. We've got 4 schools locally that haven't got a green space to do PE. We want them to come and do experimental learning days at our club. come and do education in our classroom, come and have lunch with the players, because we're proud that our players want to integrate with the community, and that will never go away from us. And that's the true fabric of a good club, a good community-based club. And we're going to drive that through, because, you know, Rowland wants to find every little rough diamond and convert it into a first team player over the next few years, and him and his coaches and his team. And if we're not out there, we never find them. But we want families to come for a day out. We're really proud of what we do. And not just the young. This isn't age exclusive. Next slide, please, Chris. You know, we're really proud of our community activity. Our wheelchair rugby has been an unbelievable success, and that's moved a step further now, where we've secured funding to develop a wheelchair rugby academy at Sherborne School. We've got some funding in now, and we'll run that. Our players are there, traditionally are there. We're a bit restricted in COVID, but our community team is still in that school delivering daily. You know, mixed ability, disability in sport and schools will continue, and that program will grow. And then walking rugby, our third generation, creating a community of third generation. You know, we are an aging population, but that shouldn't restrict them from doing walking rugby, walking football. We're really got plans to open a dementia cafe, a social event where people can come, share the past, share the stories, share experience. We want to combat loneliness, you know, so we're really proud of what everybody's doing, and it's really good. And we've all been involved in the game a long time, and it's actually really nice to see everybody's working together and joined up. So we're quite excited about where that goes in the future. Next slide, Chris, please. Sorry. As I say, we've got all these projects up and running, and because we've got buy-in from everybody, they're successful. We're now getting well known for what we're achieving. You know, I don't know if you all saw the Feed 500 at Christmas. The video was so powerful, but we're making a difference to people's lives. You know, no kid should go unfed in this day and age in this country, is our belief as a club. Project 500 has been a monumental success and will continue to grow and grow, and we'll support it. But just giving those kids some food in school holidays, and it's sad that we have to talk about it these days, but it is a fact of life. So we'll continue to grow that, and we've got more and more people coming on board. You know, not everybody wants to be schooled in an academic institution. So the team will put on programs, the NEAT programs, where we'll take people out that don't want to be in formal schooling or academic institutions and can learn in a different way. And then a HITS type program, which is it's a premiership initiative, and we're lucky with Hal, he ran the one at Saracen, but we'll do one a little bit differently, which is a bit more inclusive, and it'll have broader strokes and broader themes and learning outcomes to it. So altogether, we're really, you know, the slide says, you know, we're not going to try to do much, but everything we do, we're going to do well. And that's a secret. We're not going to try and cure everything, but what we do, we'll do well, and we'll drive it. And it'll be in the heart of everything we do. You know, and everybody that works at the club as part of the club, you know, will take part in that, which only leads to success, in my opinion. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Nick. This final photograph here is a picture of most of our boys there at Sherborne Field School. And all I can say about that is that you can be proud of our guys, both on the pitch and off it. They make these kids happy, you know. It's a great thing that we do. These last few slides about the community have all been put to the City Council. And so you'll see that strap line along the bottom. Continuation development of our activities depends upon adequate club income. Adequate club income means development of the site. Development of the site means you, the City Council, supporting us. Then we can do all of these things. So it's a circular argument, and they've got it. They buy into that. So I think that's it from us, really. Just to say, this is not only our club, it's our city as well. And we're very proud of it. We think we've got a great future. We've had the most incredible difficulties over the last year, but we will overcome. I can assure you of that.
John, I was just going to say, sorry, Chris, I was just going to say to everybody, I think we shouldn't underestimate what survival means. That's been a huge success, you know, and everybody at the club, our fans, our commercial partners have all taken part in that. Just coming through this is a massive success. I'm not going to bore you with the intricate details, but only a few of us know those stresses and those challenges we've had. but just coming through this has been a huge success and credit to everybody, you, the supporters, the commercial people, and something is not lost on us moving forward.
Rightio, thanks for that, gents. We will just crack straight on with the Q&A now, and I'm actually going to start with questions that have popped up in the chat because they're going to be relatively quick, but also prescient to what's just been talked about. So the first one, this one is for John and Nick, is from Dave Burrows. What will be the hoped for maximum capacity for the new ground layout?
But obviously that depends upon development of the far end, meaning the railway end. We're hoping to preserve 10,000 at a minimum. That may be that 10,000 is too ambitious and commercial reality says we have to go a little lower. But certainly our intention here is to create this inner city sports and events arena, which can host big concerts and festivals, as well as major sporting events. There was another question, I'm going to link it to that question. We did have discussions this year about hosting the varsity match. It is actually going to go to Welford Road. We do have discussions about Commonwealth Games in hosting visiting teams. And the Army and Navy match and other major sporting events. If we want to host those events, we've got to have that capacity. But the cost of creating them has to be set against the cost of the income that we get from them. So the answer is, I'm afraid, Dave Burrows, I don't actually know the answer to your question yet, but certainly our ambition is 8,000 to 10,000.
One for you, Nick, from John Rouse. With the community projects, which are really exciting, is there scope for volunteers to get involved? He suspects that there are supporters who would offer some volunteer help, but also I think it's one of the things for the club to look at is to tap into the broader volunteer network as well.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's a project that Hal and Richard are working on at the moment, the volunteer scheme across many fronts. As you know, Chris, some of our commercial partners have, in their working policies, have volunteer days. And they're coming forward to offer support. So I'll speak to Hal tomorrow, and we'll put some more public information out, Chris, where people can get involved.
Okay, and final one for the time being. Paul Rosper will come on to you in a minute, but John's asked me to explain the halo. John Barrett's asked me to explain the halo. It's just a problem with my lack of hair. Let's put it like that and turn to the reflection.
I've already asked that question, John.
Yeah, except that it's happened with the lights coming on as well, is that the halo all of a sudden has taken a glow all of its own.
And our comments out for the public domain.
So what we'll do is we'll come on to some of the pre-submitted questions next. And if you bear with me for 1 second. So this one's from James Bimby, and for Rowland, when the likes of James Stokes joins Irish, Henry Purdy goes to Bristol, and now Nick Dolly goes to Leicester, can you talk through the transfer process?
Yeah, sure. Look, what we want to do when we're recruiting players is making sure that they've got the right profile for the club, but recruiting the best talent we can. And what we had last, when we looked at Nick Dolly, Nick had a number of options to stay in the Premiership when he was leaving Sale, but he at the time felt that he'd only be sort of third or fourth choice at those other clubs. And what we could offer him was regular rugby opportunities, and he's 21 years old. We felt what we could offer as a club, and especially the work with Lewis Deacon, could get him to the point where he would be Premiership ready, maybe a bit sooner than others. What we didn't expect was it to be that soon. Now, when players join us, Nick in particular, this is not too uncommon that when they turn down other Premiership clubs to come to Coventry, they ask for a Premiership release clause in their contract as sort of part of the negotiation. And we've got a number of our players, and we're happy to support that across the board. We're happy for them to have that in there, because I actually get a little bit worried when a player doesn't ask for a Premiership release clause, because you often see where their intent and their ambition lies. So Nick asked for it, we accepted. We set a value in there that we were happy with, that if a Premiership club came knocking, they could pay us a handsome fee and he would move on. But ignoring the finance side of it, we're incredibly proud of Nick in the short time he was with us. He's a fantastic player, and actually he joined us back last season, so he's back with us all the way through from June, July, all last year, and spent 8-9 months training with the club and getting to know the boys. Then only actually got to play 3 games, but what a performances he put in those 3 games. So I'm really pleased for him, and I'm sure he won't be the last. And actually, we're quite proud of that we're slowly catching up, or hopefully catching up with Jersey, as producing more players from Coventry up to the Premiership in the last couple of years, and that's something I'm proud of. And from the rugby programme that we're putting together here, and as a club overall, I think it sort of underlines our ambition.
I'm going to keep another couple of related questions coming at you, Rowland, on this one. So Brian then follows this one up really by saying, do you have players in mind as replacements? If so, how many are you looking for each? How many are you looking at for each position?
Yeah, look, we have a effectively depth chart at the club anyway, so we want to support producing players from within the club. So we now have not the depth of experience and quality we had last year, but we've still got a number of players, young players coming through. So first and foremost, when a player leaves, we have players ready to go that have been with us, that have been training with us and growing through our academy and into our senior squad. Where we feel that those players might not be ready, or it might not be part of the right moment in their development programme to come through, we make sure we've always got a number of players ready to go. So if it's short term, and if, like with Nick Dolly, we get the call on a Wednesday, Thursday ahead of a Saturday game, we sometimes have to dive into my phone book and ring round and see who I can find pretty quickly. Luckily with that one, we had Jordan Paul already coming up. Jordan was going to come and join us anyway, and sort of my aim was to have Jordan and Suva and Nick Dolly all competing for spots. I didn't expect Jordan to arrive and injure Suva in his first session just after Nick Dolly had left, and yeah, the 24-hour bit of mayhem, but we got there in the end. So look, we do have a number of players ready to go, but first and foremost, we'll look to within, because we're proud of promoting players from where we're at.
And just finally on this theme is that you talked about the clauses within contracts, and although clubs need to be fair to players trying to earn more or to play at a higher level, do you think there should be a football-style transfer window?
No.
Okay, that answers that one.
Blunt as I can put it. Whilst I'm a big football fan, I like the drama of the January and the summer transfer window. It would be an absolute nightmare to be on the other side of it, trying to organise and hold on to your squad. And if that was the case, it would be incredibly difficult to sort of build a group and put them together, especially if you're going to lose them halfway through the year to the sort of big poachers. So I'm pretty happy that we enter into contracts with people, we honour those contracts, and we want to stick by them and push them through, and they do the same until a big club comes knocking, and that way we pat them on the back and happy for them to move on.
Just before we move on, just if anybody does have any further questions that they didn't submit earlier and you would like answered, then just drop them into the chat, or you can stick your hand up and we'll come to you during the course of the next few minutes. One for John, this one's from Tom Little. What was the story with London Scottish, and will they be better off next season because they haven't incurred the same kind of costs as the rest of the Championship clubs?
London Scottish dillied and dallied for a very long time before they made their decision not to participate this year. And like many clubs, there are quite a few clubs on the edge with a similar decision to make. And it was largely to do with what assistance was available from the DCMS governmental department under this Sports Winter Survival Scheme. And some clubs are prevented by their very constitution from taking loans. In London Scottish's case, there were shareholder loans into the club which had in their conditions precedence over any other loans in terms of repayment, prepayment, what have you. The conditions of the government loan were such that they had to take precedence over anybody else's loan. So therefore, London Scottish could not take a loan from the government, and nor did it want to. So it decided that it was just going to cost them money to participate this year. That they couldn't afford, so they simply shut up shop. And I can tell you there were several other clubs who were pretty close to making the same decision. What will happen next year, I can't say. I mean, yes, they've preserved some cash by not participating this year, but on the other hand, it is costing them just to keep the basis of the core of the club going, I expect. And they'll have to start with a completely clean broom next year. So I don't know. I imagine that players will have lost faith. When I addressed the players earlier this season, at the end of what I had to say to them, Phil Bolton stood up as he would and said, "John, I just want to thank you for not abandoning us in the way that London Scottish have abandoned their players." So I think it may be difficult for them to recruit. We at Cov, as Rowland has said, have always tried to be honest and straight.
One from Quent Melvish. I never know how to pronounce your surname, Quent. You'll have to tell me. That's me being terrible, which is ironic given that I'm commentating on Saturday or Sunday afternoon. One for Nick, just following on from your chat about the tech proposal. What is the most probable outcome from that, do you think? And what are your views on moving on from the Championship to either something that mirrors the Pro 14?
That's a difficult question to answer. I know I'm sitting on the fence or ducking it. Cross-country leagues are pretty difficult politically, very difficult. But something that we are talking and working in the background on a British league at this level. It's not something we've not considered, and we've got particular organisation that are very keen on that want to see that happen. Certainly at Tier 2 level. Next season is what it is. We've been handed that card. We don't agree with it, as John has said. We think it's pretty disappointing. But then we will think outside the box and create more playing opportunities for both our playing group and for our fan and commercial partners. Because 10 home games doesn't work. There is some chat about Premiership, Championship, Club Cup competition. I'm personally not optimistic about that. Hopefully I'm wrong. I just know the attitude of the Premiership clubs and, more importantly, the state they're in financially, because they're in a terrible mess, and that'll really hit home next year when, the £5 million or the £8 million they've got runs out. They're losing £1 million a month at the moment, Premiership clubs. So to put it into context, but ideally we want a vibrant league that's got all the heritage teams in it, as we would call it, the real teams, the ones that have got history, preserve history, value the past, value their local support. And that goes for to your Mosleys, to your Coventrys, to your Blackheaths, to your Rosslyn Parks, to your Doncasters, to all the teams, your Bedfords, Nottinghams. And we think we can create a really viable thing. Next year, I think, will be a holding year, in my personal opinion, because it's going to take 15 months to get something sorted properly, commercially, legally, and everybody in agreement. It's difficult to get everybody aligned, as you can imagine, on this topic. But we're going to have to do something, and we're going to have to take ownership, and we're going to have to be brave. Otherwise, we're in desperate trouble. There's no point hiding away from it, because this league becomes amateur very quickly and doesn't become a spectacle, and none of us want that. So we will take ownership, and we will try and drive that ownership hard. But we need people to come along the way from it. There's only so many times myself, John, Rowland, Chris, and everybody else can put their heads above the parapet, and then because you become an easy target, it's Coventry again. But we're driving it for a change to make a difference to everybody. Slowly but surely, people are beginning to realise that, thankfully. But it is hard work. I'm not going to step away, hide away from that fact. But I always believe there's a solution, and we'll drive to get that solution, and we'll work collaboratively to do that.
Another one for you, Nick, or you can ask me to take it. It's completely up to you. Rather than a refund or donation from our season tickets this year, why did you not offer a rollover for next season? I thought that would help with future planning to know how many season ticket holders there are. That's from Gary Williams. That's
a good question. Ironically, it doesn't help, Chris, as you know, with future planning. We took a very, very clear moralistic view here. You'd paid your money in good faith. We paid it back in good faith. And that was our mantra on that. We don't know what next year looks like, and we still don't know. We're told it's 10 teams, 11 teams. It could drop people could not be. We could have a London Scottish scenario. So until we know what our competition structure looks like next year, our season tickets will not go on sale. So we didn't want to put everybody and the administration burden on the club and the staff with online ticketing processes. It was just very clean and very easy to do it this way. And it was a collaborative decision we made. And it wasn't me making it on my own. We discussed it internally, with everybody involved, and we made that decision. And we talked to the supporters club about it prior to us doing
that. One for you, Rowland, quickly from Paul Rossborough. When is Tom Emery expected back?
Well, Tom, at the moment, hopefully he's going to get selected into the GP7's final squad. He's in the training group at the moment. He's been going really well. He picked up a little bit of an injury in the first week, but he's patched himself up and he should be back into full training now. We touch base with him once a week or so. He's going really well. Tom's position with sevens is actually quite unique because he can sort of cover 9, 10 centre or as the flyer out wide. So, and his kicking game's pretty good with his restart. So we're hoping he ticked one of the boxes and makes his way into the squad. And if that does happen, then he won't be back with us until August, ready for sort of the end of pre-season and good to go for the new season. He's under contract for next season. We could also do with him a little bit at the moment, but we are supportive of that and we hope that we'll get Coventry's first Olympian.
Well, their first rugby Olympian anyway.
Yes.
I think there have been a few Coventry Olympians elsewhere. One for you, John, from Stephen Berry. When do you anticipate being able to disclose details of the proposed share scheme?
I think that's down to Quentin, actually. Quentin, you're leading it together with Andrew Carpenter from our board. So that's down to you. I mean, we're ready to go. In recent weeks, we have been changing the share structure of the company. The simple reason that the share structure was a very old-fashioned one and limited the number of shares that could be issued. We've now changed the memorandum and articles of association so that new shares can be issued. So there's nothing to stop us doing that as soon as you guys have got your constitution put together and you're ready to launch. I think the timing of the launch will probably have something to do with knowledge about returning to playing proper league rugby again. But I'll leave that to you to talk to the supporters club.
I'm just trying to find where Quent is.
Well, he was here, I think, but I see we've got Phil here and Paul perhaps. But anyway, that's where the answer lies. It lies with them. So please get in touch with your outstanding supporters club.
There are a few questions, a few people who have asked the same question, and that is about the Saracens game and the process of ticket allocations and how people will be able to get in. I'm happy to take this, or do you want to take it, Nick?
Oh, we can do it together, Chris. I think first and foremost, we are still trying to find out more information. The definitive date, everybody works on the 17th of May. There's test events going on. We talked this morning, Chris. We're not sure we'll find full clarity until first week in May, which is no good to us. So we'll have to take a calculated risk. Our view as a club is that season ticket holders will get first opportunity, and existing members will get first opportunity to get access to the ground. What that looks like will be very different to what you've had. You will be allocated specific seats. There will be a particular flow because we'll still be under restrictions. And whether dining will take place or not, there'll be a lot of al fresco dining, we believe, and we're in the process of, we've planned all that. We are open. We are signed off by the local safety advisory group to open to crowds. When we got ready to open in January, we had sign off of 1,600. Chris, was that right? If I remember
yeah,
rightly?
About that. Yeah.
Hopefully we can get more. If we can get to 2,500, we'll be really happy. But it will really be strict, and it'll be a different type of match day, and it'll be people have to come a lot earlier and so on. But we will send out so much clear guidance on that and instruction, so it will not be confusing. But existing members, season ticket holders, VPs, and commercial partners and everybody associated that have been loyal and stood by the club will get the first opportunity for those tickets. Have I missed anything there, Chris?
No, we're already talking with Future Ticketing about how best to process this, and we are working through what comes next on that. But as Nick says, is that the test events are crucial, because there's highly likely to be some kind of it's potentially a pre-sale or pre-registration or pre-booking process, whereby we may just have to ask you to either either buy in advance or to fill in a form or something like that, on the proviso that it all goes ahead, because obviously the game against Saracens is 6 days after the next step forward. So it could be that we do an awful lot of work as we did before Christmas, only for everything to get locked down again, or for things to not progress as we want them to. So we will be in touch with everybody closer to the time, but we are already working on it.
Well, Chris, what I will say to everybody is that the ridiculous amount of protocol risk assessment that has to take place, and it's great because it's for everybody's safety. That work is done, thankfully. We're ahead of the game as a club on that, but it's a movable beast. Our biggest frustration is getting any answers. We ask, and we don't get any answers. We keep asking every day, and we don't get any responses from DCMS. We don't get any responses from our governing body, the RFU. Local authority are better, but they can only guide you in a certain way because they're waiting for that information to trickle down from central government and from Public Health England. So we will keep asking the question. So please, if we'll communicate when we've got more information. It's not because we're withholding it, I promise you. It's particularly hard work, this topic. Everybody's really cautious, and it moves weekly. We're hopefully we're coming to the end of it, but just getting Rowland's group back training was disaster, Rowland, wasn't it, in terms of the paperwork, and then getting it, closed games for us, we're losing £25,000 to £30,000 a week putting games on because the strict protocols that take place. That's why streaming's a great income. So if we can spread the word about streaming, because it covers a little bit of the gap. But we took a decision around rugby and the game, not commercial decision, when we agreed to play in this league this year, whereas London Scottish, as John talked about, didn't. But we felt for rugby reasons it was the right thing to do.
I think we should also add that following discussions with the local SAG, social advisory group, the estimated cost of proofing the ground to socially distanced people is something like 65,000 quid.
104 in the end, John.
Oh, well, usually I exaggerate. So there's
just to open it to make it
as
safe.
for the rest of it, I suggest you write Boris. You will be interested to know that we're not just freewheeling this on our own. Coventry MPs are involved with us in trying to encourage people to allow us to open. The city council is engaged in talking to the government on the back of the City of Culture events to open up earlier in Coventry for special dispensation. Nick and I have also had meetings with Andy Street, the West Midlands Lord Mayor, who is very keen in trying to push us getting open again. He's been over to BPA. So, we're marshalling all the support we can get and all the different corridors of power, whatever you think of them. We're trying to get them on side.
Right. There's now this is going to be a little bit of lucky dip because there's iPad who's raised the hand, so with no camera, so I have no idea who it is. But I've asked you, but you are unmuted, so
put the camera on.
And please put the camera on.
Yeah. Sorry, Chris, it's Quentin.
Oh, hello.
Hi, Quentin.
Sorry. Just bear with me. Just to give you a brief update on where we are with the proposal around shares for supporters. This is a very complex issue, and it's taking a lot of time because it all has to comply with the Financial Conduct Authority regulations, And there's a lot of legal I's to be dotted, T's to be crossed. We've got a small team working on this, and we now have the nucleus of the founding board to get this set up. A draft constitution has been produced, it's been circulated to the founding board, and we're currently working on the draft prospectus, which will hopefully go out to supporters if and when it gets approved. There's a lot of work to do, and the founding board will sit for its inaugural meeting towards the end of May. May the 27th is the date for the meeting. We hope, all being well, and we've got Bandhattan, Button and Askew's, the accountants on board helping us, we hope that by the start of next season, we will be in a position where we can launch the prospectus to supporters. As John alluded to earlier, what is potentially could hold us back depends on where we are with COVID and what will next season look like. But a lot of people are working very hard to try and make this happen, and we will give you updates as and when we can. But things are moving forward, albeit a little bit slowly, and we'd like to make faster progress, but we're hamstrung by the finance and the legal processes that we have to go through.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Quentin.
Thanks, Quentin.
And I trust that everybody is all aware of the book that will be published later this year, Majestic Cov, Kings of English Rugby. I hope everybody's signing up to buy lots of copies of that so that it'll be flooding Christmas present stockings.
Yeah, we're going to be, so Eddie's working with Simon and AJ on getting that all up and running via the website, via the club's website, not the Elite Pro Sports website. So it'll be via the club's website for people to order, and that's being finalised at the moment in terms of the processes for that, and then we'll be able to announce that in the next few days, all being well. So on that one, and that answers AJ's question, because he said hopefully everybody's going to be looking forward to it. One for you, Rowland, from Mark Harrison, which is based on the all of the concerns or all of the issues regarding dementia. Have you changed protocols in training?
That we're well aware of that, but we haven't, because we are at the moment happy with what we're doing, and we take every step to make sure the welfare and the safety of our players, not just in training but off the pitch as well, and the support process we put in at home, and their understanding of the issue as well. We make sure that is at sort of top of the list for us in terms of priority. So, you know, it's something that I think the game has changed quite a lot over the last couple of years, and the procedures and protocols that have been put in place are now far more supportive of all sorts of issues that are affecting the players, including that. So at the moment we're pretty happy with where we're at, but we continue to learn and evolve as much as we can as we go through.
One from Andy. Sorry.
It's fair to say that we were in front of the game. We were definitely in front of the game regarding that, and we got in front of it last year.
So next one from Andy, which is going to be for you, Nick. Are there any plans to improve the matchday experience for sponsors and any new sponsorship ideas?
Can I ask the question back? What's wrong with our matchday experience for sponsors? I'd be keen to know, so we can improve. Is he on the call?
He is. Let me, as Andy, I'm going to unmute you on that, so you can.
Because I'm always keen to learn what we can do better.
And just while he's unmuting, I'll answer the second part of that in terms of any new sponsorship ideas. Obviously, we had a few. We had a couple of shirt sponsors who didn't renew this year. One was HHE, who got replaced by the City of Culture on the sleeve, the other of which was Bandhattan Button. And that's why we brought in the position sponsorship, which gave companies the opportunity to come on board basically as an introduction way into a shirt sponsorship. We had that with the number 11 shirt with UK Asset Solutions, and it's something that we've trialed this year, and if we can't fill all the spots for next year, then we'll continue to roll that out, because it's something which which allows us to engage with more local companies or organizations at an entry level price. And it's also been done in a way where the actual introduction price is quite low, but then everything is then based on numbers of tickets sold or numbers of people watching the live streams. And that's how we structured our player sponsorship this year as well. So it reflected on the number of times the player is involved in the 23. So it's a slightly different approach to sponsorship. The back of the shirt sponsorship was nicked from some of the teams in New Zealand in the Mitre 10 competition, who do exactly the same thing. So when you see something, you nick it and you improve it, because they just put the name on it and we put the logo on. Anyway, Andy, you are unmuted. So would you like to reply back to Nick's question?
Yeah, I mean, I've been sponsoring for probably about 15 years now. Probably, well, not last year, because different things have happened with the business, but over the years there's been various different kinds of sponsorship, from the one-man band up to the multinational company, and everybody seemed to get the same sort of experience on that day. And over the years I've noticed that has declined with the different group that you've had running that department, and I'll find that it's got not quite as good. They haven't looked after the people as well, and that's other people that have been talking to me as well. I'm just wondering if it's the little simple things like receiving a photograph with your player, those things hadn't been done in the past, and players who come up into the VPs, things like that disappeared. And that, to me and to a lot of other people, is a very big thing, and it made me sponsor for 15 years. However, well, as I say, the reason I haven't this year is because of the business, but that is a big part to me, and I think it would be to a lot of people. And also mentioning your business name over the tannoy, which seemed to stop as well. Just small things like that, but it brings a lot of business in.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Something we'll take on board. I think it's fair to say that I think that we've restructured those packages, and our engagement levels are pretty good, and will continue to grow. This has been a difficult year, and we have not tried to buy or gain too much business, because everybody's been in this strife together this last 12, 15 months. But we have now, I think we've balanced it out. I mean, a good example is, I think we were over ambitious on our player sponsorship values 2 years ago. I think they were wrong, quite frankly, and we got that wrong. It's not a problem. We got that wrong. We can recognise that. We'll adjust that. But we've got to add value. And I think I can only comment what I inherited, because you can't, you don't want to look back too much. You've got to look forward. I'm a big believer in looking forward. We're very transactional in the way we built relationships. Thank you for the money, and that was it. And I think your point's right about continual interaction. Whereas now we want two-way relationships that are all about adding value for each party or multi-parties involved, and we'll continue to strive that. We will never promise something we cannot deliver anymore. We'd rather just remove it. So what we can deliver, we'll do, and we'll stick by it. That I can give you my word on that. And the team has been changed, and probably will get restructured again in the summer with more definitive roles. But we're always open to conversations like this, Andy, because personally, that's how I like to operate. Is we can't get every single thing right. And if we make a mistake, we'll put our hand up and apologise and say, right, we'll get that right, and we'll make a difference to it. And that's what I can commit to. So we will not always agree, because we don't. We'll be doing it for a reason, and there'll be a purpose behind everything we do. But we'll continue to strive to make those relationships really fulfilling for everybody. So when they leave and they renew every time, because they've got value, So we want to create more of a club type effect, business type club. We want to affect that wider in the community. We want to offer our partners the opportunity to get into those networks potentially, so they can sell their products on, for better words, so they benefit from the relationship. So we're looking at things completely different. I can give you my word on that, and it's a big initiative for the next 6 to 12 months for us anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We've been going for an hour and 20, so we will wrap up with actually probably the biggest or the biggest picture question of the lot, really, and this is to everybody, which is this is from John Barrett, and will the game of rugby union as we know it survive? I think there are various things on this in terms of the balance between business versus sport, and you look at CVC going into the Six Nations. We're talking about the community side, local passions and so on, and how important they are. But when you look across the whole thing and throw the Lions into the mix as well, and going to South Africa behind closed doors, will rugby, how different will rugby be in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I'll pick that one up. Yes, I think that we're all concerned. We're concerned that Premiership rugby appears to be in the pocket of CVC, which is a hedge fund, that the RFU appears to be in the pocket of Premiership rugby and therefore in the pocket of CVC. We're concerned about other developments. I was delighted to read recently that this proposal by an American fund to buy into the All Blacks with a massive amount of hundreds of millions of dollars has been turned down by the Players Association. And I think that part of and this is linked to so many things that have been discussed tonight, part of the new look for the championship, part of the way we're thinking about it, is that we believe that we represent the real values of this game. Yes, we need money to keep us going, but we're not talking silly money. We're not talking footballers' salaries. And neither are we talking Premiership rugby salaries, which they're to blame. It's their fault. I read the other week that Sale have just employed their 11th or recruited their 11th South African. How on earth can that be? And they're getting round employing these overseas players, getting around the salary cap by playing the marquee player card. You can pay extra for a marquee player. It's ridiculous, and it has to. The guardians of the game, the highest level of this game in this country, which is beholden to the RFU, is the championship. The RFU actually have no sway over the Premiership other than talking about the laws of the game. The highest level that the RFU actually own is the championship. It's our duty to maintain this, to create all of those links with the national one and the clubs below. Look at the slides we've shown you earlier. 14 clubs in this area have been training with us over the last few months, last year or so. We've had women, we've had kids of all ages. This is what we do, and this is what we stand for. We are setting a shining example, and we're not going to let that go. There is a good book at the moment, I forget the name of the author, and it's called The Death of Rugby Union or something like that. An interesting foreword by Willie John McBride, a great British lion, of course, perhaps the greatest of them all. And I commend you to read it. I then commend you to read the book that's just coming out about Coventry Rugby. And you will see the values, the shining values about the community, about the game from grassroots, when those days, like even poorer player as Peter Rossborough could actually get into England. Hi, Pete. He's my friend. And then, even an even worse player like Mosey can score one try more than him. See, you're lying in your bed there, are you? I don't know. But no, we are guardians of the game, and it's our determination to be those guardians of the game, and we're not going to let it slip. John, it is in danger. There's no doubt about it. We're not going to have it.
I think the game has got to change, and if it doesn't use this reset button now, we're in desperate trouble. And echo John's points, this is an opportunity to really restructure the game correctly and fairly, that those values stay true to everything that we do. And I hope we take that opportunity, because the RFU are 6 months away from becoming the FA, but the only thing they look after is the England first team and the community game. And that would be a disaster. But that is a reality and a risk that some clubs like us are willing to take moving forward, if it means getting a proper playing competition for us all to enjoy and take part in the future.
I think that about wraps it up nicely. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time this evening. Thank you for submitting questions both tonight and in advance. I hope that you've all found this useful in terms of the insights into what's happening, what we've been up to over the last year, what's likely to be around the corner in the next year. And then it of course starts again on Sunday afternoon, and that's Sunday afternoon, not Saturday. Against Ampthill, kickoffs at 2:30. Coverage on the live stream starts at 2:10. So please book your live streams. Thanks to everybody who's been doing that, and tell your friends as well. You know, the income, as John said earlier on, the income does come to the clubs and not into the RFU. So it does. So as the supermarket says, every little helps. And so thank you very much for that. And hopefully we will see you at Butts Park on the 22nd of May, all things crossed. So thanks. And finally, thank you very much, everybody, for your support. Keep it going, and we'll see you soon.